हमारे मन है जीवन प्राण, ये केवल भारत में ही हमारे लिए सत्य नहीं है, बल्कि सारी मानव जाति के लिए सत्य है.
In a country which is racing against time for its development, in a country which has got a mammoth target of not only feeding its people, but to make them an economically viable people, to be able to be a great people, I think we can't now look backwards.
In the natural world, there is a system at work. We still don't know exactly how the system works, but every living, breathing moment demonstrates the simple truth that a very complex, magical system is, in fact, alive. Some prefer to call it an act of God, others a cosmic accident. Nothing, however, takes away from the fascinating, mysterious truth. Everything fits, like a massive jigsaw puzzle, all designed to support life. When we were hunter-gatherers thousands of years ago, Homo sapiens too was a part of the system, which might more rightly be labeled nature. Like other animals, we then lived in harmony with the land, harvesting it without harming the host. Soon, gifted with an intelligence far exceeding that of any creature ever to have been born on earth, we became the rulers. The prime beneficiaries of a natural heritage which had been crafted over millions of years through evolutionary trial and error. Today, scientists, students, teachers, researchers, and thinkers represent the collective intelligence of the human race. The key word is intelligence. It describes our ability to assimilate knowledge and use it rationally to alter our environment to suit ourselves. Here lies the fork in the path of the human race. In the process of altering our environment, we seem to be crossing swords with nature itself, a battle we are surely destined to lose. Only very recently have most of us realized that the prime cause of human misery is environmental degradation. Where did we go wrong? And is there still some way to restore dignity and freshness to our lives?
जंगल की पहली पैदावार ऑक्सीजन है, इसकी दूसरी पैदावार है पानी। जंगल हमारी नदियों की माँ है और फिर हमें चाहिए उपजाऊ मिट्टी। जंगल मिट्टी बनाने के कारखाने हैं, लेकिन हमको एक गलत ख्याल दिया गया है कि जंगल से ट्री माने टिम्बर, कि जंगल की पहली पैदावार लकड़ी है। लकड़ी तो वास्तव में जंगल की मृत पैदावार है। जब पेड़ मर जाता है तब उससे लकड़ी मिलती है, जलाओ लकड़ी या इमारती लकड़ी। इसकी जिंदा पैदावार तो जैसे हमारे ऋषियों ने कहा, एक पेड़ 10 पुत्र समान। और इसका पहला लाभ ऑक्सीजन, दूसरा पानी, तीसरा मिट्टी, चौथा खाना, पांचवा कपड़ा, छठा औषधि, सातवां चारा, आठवां छाया। ये 8 तो हैं जंगल की जिंदा पैदावार। और जब पेड़ मर जाए तो उसके बाद जलाऊ लकड़ी और इमारती लकड़ी, ये 10 चीज़ें जंगल देता है। आज इस संदेश को हृदयंगम करने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि आज जो सबसे बड़ा संकट है वो प्राणवायु का है, ऑक्सीजन का है। कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड बढ़ रही है और जंगल जो है शंकर भगवान की तरह इस सभ्यता के सारे विष को, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और दूसरी जहरीली गैसों को जज्ब कर देते हैं, खा देते हैं।
Perhaps the key to our future survival lies in the words and thoughts of persons like Sundarlal Bahuguna, whose Chipko movement has become a rallying point for forest conservation across the world. Such persons are not against scientific advance. They merely ask that our natural wealth be more fairly distributed and more wisely harvested.
We are today in a situation where the total environment which we are a part of is getting more and more paralyzed, which would kill us, our socio-economic cultural life. But I am equally or more bothered about the immediate impact of this degradation of this natural resource base, including forest, on the life socio-economic cultural of the forest dwellers themselves. And that is why from their perception I see a need to immediately understand the value of preserving, conserving, developing this resource base with their participation and ensuring them as the beneficiaries of the same process, whereby we can also save the later destruction of our life and our life support system.
As forests continue to vanish, the conflict between large industry and the common man deepens.
Take the case of the forest dwellers, especially the tribal people and the downtrodden of Kerala. In Trivandrum district alone, there is more than 13,000 cane workers. All these minor forest producers are coming from the forest itself. Now they don't have cane for their traditional work, they are jobless. And most of the forest cover was destroyed due to the so-called developmental projects, mainly the dams in Kerala and the plantations.
Meanwhile, far from the nearest forest, life in the concrete jungle presses on. City dwellers generally presume that their lives have little to do with forests. Consequently, they feel absolved of the responsibility for forest destruction. This blame is, instead, cast upon tribals and the rural poor.
I have not even been close to a forest in all my life. How am I responsible for deforestation? I think these people are making a mountain out of a molehill.
It would surprise most urbanites to know that wood, Not gas, kerosene or electricity is used to cook over 50% of all the food consumed in large metros like Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta and Madras. And this wood comes from forests like Melghat, Bastar and Simlipal, thousands of miles away. The forest acreage destroyed to meet the industrial and consumer needs of urban India is absolutely staggering.
We have left only 4% forest cover. Then again coming another so many chains of dams in Kerala. And the major project is Puyengutti project, in which they are going to submerge more than 3,100 hectares of low-lying forest cover. This is the only forest, the reed forest remaining in Kerala. And if we are destroying this reed forest, it will affect more than 4 lakhs of reed workers. And where can we give alternative employment?
Perhaps half the Indian subcontinent was clothed with natural cover around 50 years ago. Slowly but surely, grasslands, scrublands and forests began to vanish. Today, our dense-crowned forest cover has been reduced to under 10%. And these scattered belts too are shrinking, like ice cubes in a pot of boiling water.
अगर वन नहीं रहेंगे तो इस पृथ्वी पे जीव सृष्टि नहीं रह सकती। फिर ना तो कोई शहर रह सकता है, ना तो कोई कल कारखाना रह सकता है और ना कोई जीव जंतु यहाँ पे रह सकेंगे।
The inseparable relationship between climate, forests and rivers is obvious to all but the very myopic. Every school child is taught that forests temper the elements, warming cold air and cooling warm air. Besides producing oxygen and binding the soil, forests also help to harness nature's productivity. Like giant sponges, they soak up the short but plentiful rain of our monsoons. Then, for months, this water is slowly released in the form of streams, rivers, lakes and groundwater. By cutting down our forests, we have removed the sponge. As a result, we now suffer violent floods and landslides. Then, because the water is exhausted by the flood, we face months of crippling droughts. This cycle of misery has now become an annual man-made tragedy. No man-made creation comes even close to contributing as much to the quality of life of humans as do forests.
For the villagers, forest is something like just like a fortress. It's just like a fortress of safety for them. As long as the forest is there, then they are getting all their basic needs also from the forest. Their livelihood things, their woods to make their house, their fruits, their hunting species. But as the forest is gone, then what happens is that their whole civilization, their culture is in danger, they are in threat. So the villagers doesn't want the forest to go, they want the forest to be saved.
Nevertheless, there are those for whom the worth of a forest is calculated differently. In our wisdom, we have thus far allowed monetary considerations to determine the fate of our forests. Forest dwellers, however, have not forgotten what their ancestors taught them. If we are to save our forests, we will need to imbibe some of this learning, along with a basic respect for the earth.
यदि हम आदिम सभ्यता को देखें, आदिवासी सभ्यता को देखें, तो वह अपने को जंगल से अलग करके नहीं देख सकता है। यह जब व्यक्ति जंगल से दूर हटता गया और जंगल से अलग हट करके अपने अस्तित्व के बारे में सोचता गया, तब यह विरोधाभास, आज का जो हमारी संस्कृति का विरोधाभास है, यह सामने आता है। और यही इस समय की हमारी सभ्यता की जो सबसे गलत चीज है उसकी जड़ में है।
What, one wonders, is to become of the children of the Ganges? For centuries we strived, we survived. The harshest plagues and conquerors' swords swept through us. Yet we stood, for with us was the land, its bounty, our mantle of protection.
As far as I see it, the forest is the soul of a country. If a country doesn't have a 33% forest cover, its future is doomed. If we are concerned in a genuine sense of sustainable development, then it is the sustainability of a forest that can ensure the sustainability of the soil. It is the sustainability of the forest that can ensure the sustainability of water systems. Water, land, soil productivity, food, all of these are integrally linked to the survival and regeneration of the forest.
Animals possess the technology to look after wild habitats, a technology unknown to humans. This sloth bear, for instance, plants hundreds of fruit trees each year. The seeds of the fruits it eats are deposited with the world's finest fertilizer, bear dropping. This elephant is the bulldozer of the forest. It clears pathways for other animals to use so that they can disperse far and wide. This prevents them from overexploiting a small area. These ants clean up the forest floor, and this butterfly pollinates thousands of plants in its lifetime. Birds, dragonflies and spiders eat small insects. They are nature's pest controllers.
Fortunately, my work involves study and documentation of nature, which has also been my hobby. My concern for this forest is not just because a pretty place is going to be lost, but it is much more beyond that. Forests have a treasure of gene pools which hold the future of our food plants. They are storehouses of medicinal plants which hold promise for the benefit of mankind.
Every creature profits from the jungle, yet each pays his share of dues to the host. A truly symbiotic relationship, a partnership as old as life itself. In a sense, this is precisely what naturalists ask of us, that we flow with the tide of nature, not against it.
We cannot give a go-by to environmental concerns. We cannot wish them away. At the same time, I think the world is a happier place without dinosaurs. Though we have lost them, we have gained a great amount of civilization in form of houses, cities, urban centers, industrial development, which had enriched man's life. And it is wrong to believe, in my opinion, that it is only forests that enrich man's life, though they are quite essential and therefore must be preserved as well.
What is development all about? It is the enhancement of the natural resource base, of which forests are a vital component. The city dweller is as dependent on this resource base as is the villager or Adivasi. Once we understand this, we will soon realize that development and environment are in fact two sides of the very same coin.
Our urban needs are largely catered to by the resources of rural India. When dams are constructed, for instance, people are displaced. Many of them, quite understandably, follow the flow of resources to land up in urban India, thus aggravating an already volatile situation. The urban influx is a direct result of the degradation of rural India. In an attempt to make up for the loss of our forest wealth, a massive effort to grow more trees has been started. This is an encouraging sign, but man-made forests can never hope to replace those created by nature. The majority of our people are as directly dependent on the health of the land as are the birds and animals of our forests. Over the din and clatter of India's industrial machine, a tiny, persistent voice has begun to be heard. What is development? It gently asks. And if I cannot participate in the fruit of your development, must it be I who pays the price for the destruction it wreaks? The voice belongs to those millions of persons who lived for centuries harvesting the green gold gifted to us by nature. Their response to the destruction of forests, the source of the green gold, is dismay, confusion, and of late, anger. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, there are still some who feel that inconsequential matters like forest destruction and environmental degradation merit no more than their cursory attention. Naturalists, they feel, are naive, a hindrance to progress, unrealistic. To them, we simply offer an alternative insight, a vision from our minds and our hearts, and we in turn ask them, who are the dreamers? Those who seek ways to live without ravaging Earth's natural assets? Or the achievers who believe mankind could survive regardless of the damaged state of our forests, rivers, and air?